Welcome, everybody, to the Living Oneness Gathering. I am your host and guide, Sue Dumais. It's an honor to be here with you and for all of us to join and unite with a shared vision, a shared mission, and a shared cause. The Living Oneness Gathering was something I was offering weekly for over a year. And in around 2022, I think it was. And it stopped. I was guided to stop it. And the reason it's come back in so strongly right now is I really feel that everybody needs a reminder of why we're here and what our role is in the world right now. At the same time, I really felt like it was time to bring people together again on a regular basis and sharing a message that will help us remove the filter of forgetfulness and help us remember our oneness, help us remember our interconnectedness, and not just remember it, but experience in a way that brings that deep remembrance within our hearts, within our minds, within our experiences of our body and our soul and our energy field. As we are coming together today, I want you to understand that those of you that are joining live, you're part of this process. But those of you that are listening later to the podcast, the replay, you are part of this process as well. You are part of this community. I call it COM, community. Om is that home, that feeling of home within us, within our heart, that primordial sound that is our essence. It brings us closer to the remembrance of who we are. And unity is uniting us again, once again, in love and compassion. And I'm talking about divine compassion, divine love, not human love. So each week as we gather, I'll be sharing a lesson, an understanding of living oneness. I'll be bringing on guests and having different interviews and joining in different conversations, because there's more than one way to understand and experience oneness. There's more than one way, more than one path to get there. The key is to be able to remove the resistance in the mind to the remembrance, to lift the veils or the filters of forgetfulness at the level of the mind so that we can experience the truth of who we are and understand that we are all connected. On some level, we are all connected. And every time we extend love to another person, we're extending love to ourselves. Every time we're meeting someone else with fear, we are extending fear back toward ourselves. And there's no separation in the exchange on an energy level, but our perception of separation is really experienced at the level of our physical eyes and our mind. The mind is built on separation. It's built on duality. And it's designed to give us an experience of humanness. But the challenge is we got so lost and so far from our remembrance, and we forgot that we are one. We forgot that we are connected. We even forgot that we are love. We forgot our essence. We've gotten so far as a whole. I'm not saying all of us, but as a whole, we've gotten so far away from the truth of who we are. And we've gotten to the point where we forgot that we forgot that we forgot. It's so deep. So bringing this gathering back, and it's going to look different than before. So I was shown in the last couple of days that the purpose of it is different than before. The intention of it is similar, but there's a different approach I'm to take, and that I'm to gather some other individuals that can join and have these conversations. At the same time, when we show up together in this way, we are having an impact. Even you saying yes to coming today, showing up, it's having an impact. You sitting in meditation, whether you're with us or listening to the replay, is having an impact. Right now, the vision I keep getting is I keep seeing the unbalanced energies joining forces. And the unbalanced energies are gathering together and joining forces because the balanced energies are hitting a tipping point, and so many of us are remembering and experiencing the truth of who we are, that we're not buying into the illusions anymore. We're not easily coerced by those energies, and we're not hooked in the same way as we once were. At the same time, there's a lot of people that are still getting hooked by the unbalanced energies. And by unbalanced energies, I'm talking about light and dark. It's not just about going into the light and being the light. It's light and dark energies are actually part of creation. And when they're in balance and harmony, we experience creation. We experience ourselves. We experience source in an individual expression of itself. When the energies are out of balance, that's where we get tripped up. That's where we can trust an energy that's actually not clean, clear, and pure. And we get caught up in the illusion, or we get caught up in the separation, or we get caught up in the judgment, and we get caught up in the programming. The good news is, as we gather together with a shared intention to unite in love for each other and our planet and for all of creation, we come into that experience of remembrance. The duality or the objections or the resistance in the mind falls away. And at first it trickles away, or maybe parts of it goes away, but eventually all of it will fall away. And in that deep space of remembering and experiencing, remembering through experiencing, then we actually hit a tipping point where we can start to really balance those unbalanced energies. We can harmonize all the discordant energies. We can all come into resonance with our heart, with love, with compassion. The Living Oneness gathering is about me guiding and leading. Maybe I'm sure I'm the visionary that's or the messenger that it's being delivered through. But without all of you, it's not a gathering. Without your heart and intention, it's not a gathering. It's one individual sharing something on a level that's not being heard or experienced or expressed as deeply and as far reaching as if we were to gather together. So I may be the shepherd, guiding, leading, directing, channeling this message. But without all of you, there is no gathering. The impact that this creates can sometimes be measured. Sometimes we will see evidence of relationships and experiences we have. We'll see that reflection of oneness in our interactions once you come to the gathering and bring these pieces, bring these lessons out into the world. Once you feel that resonance in your heart and you start to really hold that heart resonance and that mind resonance for yourself, you'll start to see this beautiful reflection of oneness in your life, and your relationships may change. And you'll start to feel the ripple effect. But on a micro level, on a microcosm level, we can only see what we can see. We can only feel what we are capable of feeling and sensing and knowing. But on a macro level, on that level of soul, there's an impact that's occurring that is immeasurable, but far more reaching than your mind can comprehend. And we can feel it in our heart. We can feel that heart knowing that we're having an impact. We can feel that heart knowing that this is where we're meant to be. This is what we're meant to be doing at this time, and to have impact, to support humanity, to support Mother Earth, to support nature and all the animals, all the creatures, all living beings, all of creation, even beyond this planet, even beyond Mother Earth. Many of you are feeling that really deep calling. And I get so many people asking me, what can I do? What am I supposed to do? What's my soul mission? How can I have impact? I literally came out of the womb going, I like just this mission to heal the world, to awaken and heal the world. Like I was actually in the womb. My first memory of healing was in utero, supporting my mom. And I could hear my mom and dad arguing through the womb. And I actually had a vision, and I explained everything to my mom. I'm like, you were arguing, and this is where you were standing, and this is where Dad was standing, and this is what was happening. And she was just like really freaked out because that's exactly where they lived at the time that she was pregnant with me. And I had other memories of that too after I was born. So my earliest memories, I came in here in this world with my very first breath on a mission to heal, harmonize, and unite us. I see this vision of global unification, and I see that it's not only possible, that it's happening. It's already happening. And what's happening is there's these pockets of unification happening. People like us gathering together, feeling the call, all showing up because we're just feeling it in our hearts. And even if in our minds we don't understand what it's for or why we're here, and maybe some of you are in that place where you're not really sure why you're here or why you're listening to this. It's because inside your heart, there's a seed. There was a seed planted with the potential, the possibilities, the individuals that you're meant to meet and join with, the timing, everything is all being orchestrated. And those seeds of remembrance are growing. They're being watered. They're being nurtured. They're being activated. And the more and more of us who align with this, knowing that we have a part to play in this evolution, in this shift for humanity, in this shift in consciousness from head to heart, from fear to love, from separation to oneness. Those of us that feel really deeply that we have a part to play, and in our minds, we don't know what that part is. Thank you for answering that call. Thank you for being here, because your presence has an impact. It has an impact for me, and it has an impact for everyone in this gathering, everyone who will listen to this gathering, and everyone everywhere all together all at once. It literally ripples out to all of creation. And it hits every aspect of creation on some level, directly or indirectly. So thank you for answering the call, and thank you for being here. And I appreciate you uniting your heart with ours so that we can expand and amplify the balanced energies. And it's not just, I talk about holding the light, but it's like hold the light and the dark. The light and dark within us is all part of creation, but be balanced, be harmonized, be in alignment. That's essential. So when you're out in the world and you feel fear, meet the fear inside you with love and compassion so that love can expand. When you're out in the world and you meet other people's fear, don't judge it. Don't add judgment to the pot. That's fear disguised as judgment. Meet the fear in the world with love so that love can expand. Because every time you meet fear with love, love expands every single time without exception. The fear may still be present in front of you, but your presence of love will have an impact. And it may be just a sprinkle. It may be just a seed that was planted, Or it may be just a loving embrace that was surrounded that fear, that surrounded that fear. It has an impact and it will shift it. If it doesn't shift it in that moment, it will shift it eventually. So we hold steady in that knowing, in that heart knowing that love is the most powerful force. And when it's held with clear intention, when it's held with deep compassion for creation, for humanity, for each other, for ourselves, it has an extraordinary impact, an immeasurable impact, a beyond global impact. As you take some deep breaths and feel the message, the words, the resonance, the frequency of everything I'm sharing and everything I'm not sharing. And just welcome it in to your heart at the level that you feel capable in this moment to receive it. Allow it to come into the space where you have the capacity to receive and accept it. And as we recognize that our mind is designed to give us an experience of separation. Our mind is programmed based on duality, and duality is separation, experience of contrast, love, fear, contrast of light, dark, contrast of good, bad. Within duality itself, there's an implication of judgment. So the mind likes to judge, and we're taught and programmed to judge. But what if we could shift the mind so that instead of, when we look upon something or reflect on something, instead of judging, we could observe. In other words, in every moment, we're either judging or observing. When we look upon something, when we reflect on something, when we tune into something, when we bring it into our awareness, the mind will want to judge it. But what if you could change the way you experience the mind? What if you could use the mind differently and change the programming? What if you could bring the mind into resonance and alignment with observation, with curiosity, with wonderment? We could even bring in the energy of amusement. The energy of those mindsets allow us to observe what's happening, to observe what's within and around us without judgment. That filter of judgments lifted. That habit of judgment shifted. In order to remember our oneness, in order to be in alignment with oneness, in order to be living oneness, we need to remove all the obstacles, the programming, the habits, the conditioning, the filters of forgetfulness at the level of the mind. In some ways, yes, we abandon the mind, but in other ways, we just begin to use the mind in a way that will actually support us in the remembrance. When we can bring the mind into resonance, meaning an energetic alignment with oneness, or an energetic alignment with love, divine love, not human love. There's a difference. Divine love has no limits, no conditions, no judgments. Divine love has no contrast. It just is. It's your essence. It's your source. It's pure, clear, eternal, boundless. And the mind can only go so far. The mind can only comprehend so much. The mind can only come to a degree of understanding. And then we need to let the mind go. And the experience of oneness can come in. The mind doesn't experience oneness. The mind lets go so that we can experience oneness deep within our hearts, our energy, our field of existence, our field of consciousness. And I invite you to ask yourself the question, who am I? Use those words. Who am I? Who are you really? Many people think they are their mind. They are their thoughts. You are not. You are not your thoughts. You are not your mind. That is not who you are. You are the consciousness that is aware of the mind, aware of the thoughts. You are the observer, observing the thoughts. Who am I? Many people believe they are their emotions or they are the body. You are not the body. You are not the emotions. There is a consciousness that is observing or aware of the body, that even can be animating the body, animating your humanness. You are a divine expression, a unique expression of source, of divinity, of God. You choose the word that resonates for you. Choose the word that doesn't create an objection or resistance in the mind. And that word may change as the mind is unwound, as the programming shifts. our language can shift. Because we have no objections or resistance to the words, it all just falls away. And ultimately, all the words need to fall away to experience oneness. And in the beginning, it helps to experience or set an intention to experience oneness within yourself, oneness with your source. For others, it's a pathway into experience oneness with everything, everywhere, all together, all at once. But for others, they need to experience oneness within themselves. Whatever's needed. Just allow yourself to lean into it. And if you feel resistance, breathe through the resistance. Lean into it. Lean into the resistance. Stir it into the heart. If you feel fear, stir it into the heart. Accept it, embrace it, honor it. Meet the fear with love. Meet it with acceptance. Honor it all. It's all part of your human experience. And the question comes back, who am I really? I am not my thoughts. I am not my mind. If I'm not my emotions, if I'm not the body, who am I? So we're opening the mind and creating a space, bringing in that opportunity to embrace curiosity, to embrace wonderment. I wonder what it would feel like to experience who I really am, the truth of who or what I am. And we're just inviting anything that is resisting knowing that truth, any part of you, to stir it into the heart. Taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale, just let some of that resistance go with the breath. I'm willing to open my mind. I let go of the need to know or understand. And I invite the experience of oneness within my heart. And I allow it to come in whatever way I am most receptive at this time. Breathe and allow. Imagine your heart shifting into resonance with love, with divine love, with divine compassion. And divine compassion comes without suffering. There's no judgment of suffering here. Some deep breaths. Imagine your heart is in resonance with your source. And if you prefer more of the science angle, imagine your heart in resonance with the unified field. And imagine your heart connected to one heart that connects us all. Imagine that beautiful thread coming from your heart to the one heart that beats and breathes for all of creation. And imagine as you're breathing, you could invite and call forth anything and everything you need, not necessarily what you want, but what you need in this moment. What you need in this moment to remember, what you need in this moment to align fully, as much as you possibly can, as much as you're capable of in this moment. And even bringing forth some balanced energies that can support you in bringing any unbalanced energies within and around your field into balance. Yes, thank you. Gratitude for receiving. And imagine you could stay connected, because we are always eternally connected to our source. Imagine you could stay connected and then turn toward humanity, Mother Earth. Turn and look upon all of creation around you, the other individual expressions of divine source, the unique individuations of our source essence. And imagine you could extend from source into your heart, through your heart, so you become a channel for love, for compassion, for harmony. And imagine bringing that harmonized energy through you out into the world. And imagine you become a tuning fork that represents harmonized energy, a tuning fork that represents compassion or peace or love, whatever it is that you feel that you're meant to extend at this time. And remember, it's not coming from your humanness. It's coming from your source into your heart, through your humanness and out into the world. And as it comes from your source into your heart, it comes to you and through you. It's for you and for all. Always for you first. Fill your heart, then extend out. So you are a receiver and a messenger. You receive what you need and extend what's guided, what's purposeful. So we go back and answer the question, who am I? You might repeat the words, I am one with all of creation. I am divine love. I am divine compassion. I am divinity, animating this human experience, animating my human self. I am an individual expression of source. And these words may change. One may resonate really deeply. Stick with that one. You don't need to say all of them. Feel the one that really lands and resonates deep in your heart, and the one that doesn't have too much objection at the level of the mind, so that you can really lean into it, that you can really breathe into it, embrace it, embody it, become it, become the knowing and the truth. Embody the frequency of it. Take some more deep breaths. And bring this feeling and invite this feeling to really create an imprint, a memory of this experience, so that you can bring it back with you into your humanness, into your human life classroom, so that it's not separate. It's not your divinity or humanness. It's not you in meditation having that experience or being in your humanness and getting caught up in separation. It's about bringing that experience into your humanness so they're together, one and the other. And to whatever degree you can blend the two and invite the two to unite, be grateful. Do not judge the degree that you are not able to do that. Appreciate to what degree you are able, even if it's just a tiny bit. And don't judge it if it's a whole lot, because it may be a whole lot in this moment and it not be in the next, and the mind will want to judge. The ego will want to judge. Appreciate to what degree you can blend it, to what degree it does feel the two become one. your divine self and your human self, united together. Some more deep breaths. In your own experience, honoring your own divine timing, I invite you to slowly bring your awareness back, bringing whatever pieces of your experience of oneness you can bring back with you. And bring them back into the space you're in. Feeling your physical environment and the physical body. And opening your eyes if you feel ready. And some of you may take a little bit longer to do that, and that's okay. So I want to share a little bit about the Living Oneness gathering. So for those of you that are on live, I appreciate you coming and gathering for the next 3 Thursdays, 2 more Thursdays. We'll meet at this time for the gathering live. For those of you that will be listening to the replay, it'll be available on YouTube, but it will also be a podcast. Starting in July, I'll have the podcast episodes. So the replays will be podcast audio, and on YouTube would be the video. And for those that are feeling to be on the lives, then you can go to the website, heartfedliving.com/gathering and RSVP so that you'll get the invitation to join on this live event, this live gathering. And for those of you that are feeling to listen to the podcast, you could also RSVP there, so you'll get the information on the podcast launches and the episodes that are uploaded. And at this moment, I don't know that this is going to happen every week, so I'm just guided moment, like gathering to gathering, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But next week, for sure, Kristen Bilecki will be joining, and we'll be doing a conversation. We'll have a conversation around living oneness, and we'll bring an experience together, an activation for all of you as well, and call you into being part of that activation. So as we gather, you could feel like as we gathered and connected to the heart today, and then we extended it out into the world, it was like gathering together, amplifying our own field of resonance, and then extending that out. That's part of the practice. So you could even practice that this week and amplify that, get more comfortable with that. In remembrance of oneness is a bit like a muscle, and that muscle of remembrance takes a little time, but we also want to be lifting the filter of forgetfulness of the mind and all the ways that maybe the ego might be blocking you, because the ego only knows fear. It only knows separation. It's designed to give us an experience of separation. So the ego can become a little bit of a saboteur and keep us stuck. If you want to understand the ego more, or you want to go deeper into really clearing and unwinding a lot of the lessons that I learned, you could look at the Healer's Toolbox on my website. And I still have that founding member special for the Healer's Toolbox. It has over 200 lessons. I'm adding new lessons every month. And that can be an easy way for you to reach in and get the lesson you need, to remind you, to support you, to help you feel that centeredness, that groundness, that alignment. And it is also really good at helping you understand how the ego actually really is in play and how it can run interference internal interference with our ego is a big piece too. So if you're drawn to the Healer's Toolbox, I'll invite you to go check that out, heartledliving.com/toolbox. And today, for the next just 5 minutes or so, what I want to do is just open it up for those of you that are on live. This is for questions. I'm not doing intuitive readings. That's different. That's the live experience for the monthly one that I do with the intuitive readings. But if you have questions about oneness, if you have questions about God, if you have questions about understanding this experience or how to identify it, ways that you can actually experience it more. Sometimes the mind just has like a question that's blocking or locking, or you can't get past it. So if you feel to ask a question, you can raise your hand, or you can type it in the box, in the chat box, and I can take the next 5 minutes or so to answer any questions that people have in relationship to oneness or spirituality. There's not a lot of spaces and places in the world where we can have our questions answered. There's a lot of times we have these questions that are niggling and we don't feel we have a safe space. So this is a safe place and space where you can bring whatever questions you have to help you understand what is happening. So Daria, thank you, dear Sue. Thanks to everyone for our joint field. Yes, it was beautiful. Thank you, everyone. If anybody has a comment, you want to share what stood out for you and how things made you feel free to jump in. I've got a question, Marilyn. I'm going to ask to unmute you.
So my question is regarding timelines. I've been hearing more about this, and it seems like the way to get into a higher timeline is through consciousness, and seems like the oneness, what you're teaching us and experiencing, is the portal or pathway. I guess I'm not quite sure. I am trying to understand that relationship more, or maybe this is very different.
You're wanting to understand the idea of timelines in relationship to oneness. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a great question. So I'm a time weaver, so I have a lot of different experiences of timelines.
Oh, okay.
But from my perspective and from my experience, I can speak from that place. So when I tune into different, we call it timelines, but really, if you want to expand the mind completely and go like in the total, like far out expansion level, there is no concept. There is only a concept of time to the mind.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we talk about timelines and we talk about past lives or even future, because that's what the mind understands. So essentially, everything's happening in a spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And in that spiral, we could go to one spot and call that a timeline, or we can go to another spot and call that a different moment in time, but it's all happening in the eternal now. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. That's like way out there, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Within each individual experience of time, in quotes, those are not listening to or not seeing the quotations that I'm making on video. As a human, we can have different experiences of timelines within our human experience. And these timelines are sometimes based on what our perception is of a past experience or timeline. And sometimes it's a break in the timeline where it kind of splits, where we can have a choice point that then gives us two timelines that are running parallel. So let's say you have a moment where you're like, do I stay in my marriage? Do I leave my marriage? A timeline could be split there where you, on some level, some of your consciousness is experiencing that timeline based on a choice you made to leave. And another part of you is experiencing that timeline based on the choice to stay. And what happens with those is sometimes they parallel and they run, and they sometimes will hit and interject a little bit. So there'd be a little bit of a glitch or a little bit of a hit. We have a little bit of a funny recall or experience of different timelines kind of touching. Those are some of the experiences that people can have. I believe what you're asking more is around this evolution or ascension or different ways that people can describe it, where we are to where we're going. Some people call it the new earth or whatever you want to call it, different dimension, but it's all the same spiral. Just our consciousness is focused in on a different experience of that eternal spiral now. The way I'd like to visualize it, and I've had many different visions and different ways of being shown this, the way I like to visualize it is that the current Earth experience, current level of consciousness that many people are experiencing, and this different experience of this new potential, this new Earth, if you want to call it that way, is on a different timeline. And some of us can go back and forth between those timelines. And I do that. And I can experience what's possible and what's happening and what's already occurred in some ways. And then I can come back and experience where people are having challenges. So ultimately, this version of Earth, or this version of the timeline that we're experiencing as Earth, is shifting and changing. And it's shifting and changing so rapidly to the degree that we can't, it's not sustainable to hold this timeline anymore. So ultimately, all of us will shift over to the new timeline. All of us will either jump, will be escorted, or some of us will leave and join over there. But not all are going to make the transition and stay kind of in this consciousness. Their consciousness might jump out of the body and then into the new timeline. But ultimately, all of us will be going there. That's my understanding, and those are the visions I've been getting in different ways. Does that help you understand what?
To make that transition easier is this process of balancing and oneness and all of that, creating more fullness, stability, or whatever. So when you're ready to make that transition, it's easier, just
Smoother.
or resilient or something.
It'll be smoother or it'll be possible. So some people that just have so much of the density or unbalanced energies left, the only way to get there is to exit and then come in.
Okay.
Whereas others, the more you can align and attune yourself closer to the frequencies of what that new timeline will hold, then you'll be able to take a smoother transition to get into that timeline. And it could just be a moment, or for some, it might be a little bit of a journey. But the more aligned you are and the more attuned to the resonance of what that new timeline is, or that new Earth holds, then you'll be able to transition into that space more smoothly.
So are the tools in your toolkit, or that's what they're designed to do?
Many of them, yeah, are designed to, like, how am I holding myself back? What ways am I resisting, your divinity? What ways is your ego interfering with your ability? How do you need to ground your energy? What is frequency? All of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's all in the toolbox. The toolbox is essentially like anything you need, you kind of reach in, and there's usually a piece there for you if you're struggling to have an understanding, or you want to shift and feel that resonance within your heart and radiate out your source point. All those kinds of things are in the toolbox. Yeah.
Thank you. Like you said, you don't get this information many places.
No, and if you're talking about it too much in many places, you'll get a lot of judgment. Not as much as before, but there's still a lot of judgment out there. So,
Um,
and it's challenging to find the words too. So a lot of the visions I receive are so like beyond words that it's like I'm essentially I've become really good at kind of translating experiences or like a energy translator, because it's so beyond what the mind can comprehend. So even me trying to explain, and I'm Valerie's, I just see a question. It's like, what do you mean by leave the timeline and come back? So like, but that's the only way, the only words that I can find that can closely describe what that is, but I can't describe it in words. And so I'm grateful for these spaces where we can have these conversations and kind of work through the language and find a way that creates an understanding just enough for the mind to go, okay, I can accept that. And now I'm allowing the experience to come in. And then when you have the experience, then you're just like, okay, I know what you mean now, Sue. I don't know how to explain it either, but your words were close, but you might add some different words in some different ways as well that can help others understand the journey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Appreciate your question. Okay, so Valerie, I'm just going to really quickly, what do I mean when I leave the timeline and come back? I do a lot of soul travel, so I travel a lot too when I'm in the dream state or in the lucid dreaming state, and when I'm in deep meditation and working with clients or not working with clients, when I'm working with Mother Earth and beyond. I do a lot of traveling. So my soul is often in many different places at once. It's something that I do. This is part of one of my gifts, one of my expressions of my gifts. And I will often find myself in 2 or 3 different places, having 2 or 3 different conversations, or getting a download over here and working with somebody over there. So it all kind of shifts and changed, but that's been my experience. I call it leaving this timeline and coming back, or shifting into the new earth consciousness and seeing what's possible, and then coming back and maybe bringing some information that will help people get there or help people make that transition. It shows up in different ways. So that holds a couple different meaning to me. So I can have a whole conversation. I could do a whole day talking about the timeline experiences and time weaving and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that gives you a little snippet, a little understanding. So, okay. So it's at the top of the hour. I want to respect and honor everybody's time here and their human experience. And also recognizing that this is going to be a podcast. You can listen to the replay. It'll be on YouTube. And I appreciate each of you. If you feel like there's others that are feeling the calling that want to participate in supporting the energy, amplifying the heart space and the resonance and bringing it out into the world, please share it. Share it with others, and you can send them to the Heart-Led Living /gathering on the website, share that page, and they can RSVP and join us. The more, the merrier, the more we can gather people and balance energies and really hold that intention, the greater effect we're going to have. And ultimately, what we're really moving toward is balancing and harmonizing all energies, period. All of creation is to come into balance. So that's the direction we're heading. And to be part of that is really exciting. And I appreciate all of you coming and being part of that as well. And if you want to share how this felt and what stood out for you, you can email me and share those details. I might not answer every email, but I do read every email, and I do appreciate everybody's experience, because it does really help me as well recognize just how much it's helping us individually so that we can continue to help more on that collective level. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. I honor you. I see you. And the world is so lucky to have you and for your heart to be here and present and willing. I'm just really deeply grateful. Thank you all. Love and blessings. Until next time.